Cool. So, Jet, moving on to discuss some of the heavyweight news recently. We discussed all these little guys. Let's discuss some of the big men of the boxing scene at present. First things first, obviously the Wilder Povetkin purse bids have been all over the news. What's your take on the whole Wilder Povetkin saga at present?
It's tough to say. I mean, Povetkin, I know he has a big backer. Rybinski, I think, is his promoter. So he has massive money in that, that he can bring the fights back to Russia. And, I mean, for Wilder, it's not great because I know Al Heyman, PBC is centered around a big heavyweight. It was initially for Wilder. Now that Charles Martin's won a belt, you have two American big heavyweights that can both crack, and they're the poster childs for American boxing at the moment. So I mean, it's tough. It's tough for Wilder because people. I don't know if the American public actually believe he's the best in the division anyway. I mean, after what Tyson Fury did to Vladimir Klitschko, it's a tough sell to say of the opponents that Wilder has been beaten up on, that he's the best in the division. So I mean, not ideal for Wilder. He could go out there and he could do a demolition job on Povetkin, and everyone will say he's the best in the division by default because he's beaten one of the top heavyweights, and he could go into a Tyson Fury unification fight or Anthony Joshua unification or Charles Martin unification and be a heavy favourite. But I don't see that happening. I see Povetkin beating him late stoppage for me. And I mean, Wilder has some things going that might trouble him, but with his last fight against Artur Szpilka, I can't see it happening. Szpilka was giving him all sorts of problems, and it was really bad to watch for a Wilder fan. What do you think of the fight?
It's a real interesting fight. For me, it's the definite number 3 and number 4 in the heavyweight division right now. I think Fury is clear 1, Klitschko is clearly 2, and I think these guys, you could have them in any order, but they're definitely the 3rd and 4th ranked heavyweights at present. It's a fight that I've always found quite difficult to call, actually. Povetkin, for me, the blueprint on how to beat Alexander Povetkin is very, very obvious and very out there. And that's the Vladimir Klitschko fight. I mean, Povetkin didn't really win a single round of that fight. And I know people say Vladimir was a bad sport, etc. But let's be honest, Vladimir put on a very professional performance that night and won every single round and completely negated Povetkin's game. And I've always thought that a tall fighter who can use range, who can score points behind a jab, and who can, clinch Povetkin and hold him up close and, tie him up in that way, could beat Povetkin. And there are other blueprints out there as well. It's not just the one that Klitschko set. I mean, Carlos Takam, he gave Povetkin a lot of bother. That was an even fight at the time of the stoppage. Even Mariusz Wach, don't get me wrong, Povetkin beat Mariusz Wach with ease. But if you rewatch that first couple of rounds, when Mariusz Wach is getting the jab going, he gets some success there. And for me, Wilder is leagues above Mariusz Wach. He may not have the chin of Mariusz Wach, but in terms of his output, he's leagues above. So I do think Wilder could cause Povetkin problems. Povetkin's got a good chin, he's tough, he's not going to get knocked out easy. But if Wilder uses his movement, and if Wilder works behind the jab, he can be the bigger, more athletic, better boxer in there. I mean, back at Povetkin's historic form, if you look at the fight against Marco Huck, for example, he doesn't look so unbeatable. The key for me here, though, is what happens when Povetkin gets inside the Wilder jab. Now, Povetkin, despite the fact that he does look beatable, despite the fact that he's small, is a truly big power puncher. I mean, look at the way he took out Mike Perez, who'd never even been dropped before with a single punch. Look at the knockout of Manuel Char. Look at the knockout of Carlos Takam. Povetkin is a very, very, very big puncher. the way Deontay Wilder back straight up with his chin in the air, with his arms raised like he's playing dodgeball yet, at that point of the fight, surely Povetkin takes him out. And for me, based on the last fight against Spilka, if I had a gun to my head, I would pick Povetkin to win by knockout. But Wilder outboxing him like he did in the Stavern fight, is it possible?
Yeah, it's not impossible. I totally agree with you. If Wilder fixes the defensive frailties in his game, he definitely can outbox Povetkin. I think Povetkin's really, really one-paced against Mariusz Wok. He looked in a bit of bother in the first 3-4 rounds, and then after it was just jab combination. It was nothing special from Povetkin. He didn't really change it up or go into second gear. It was just one gear throughout, and I don't know if that was the opponent or anything, but he just looked really one-dimensional, one-paced. And if Wilder can, show him different angles, counter-punch, do some different things, Povetkin can be he can outbox Povetkin. Whether his chin will hold up is an entirely different story, but he can, I can see that. But again, if it was, if I had to pick someone, I'd be inclined to go with Povetkin at this moment in time. Povetkin late stoppage, I'd say.
Yeah. I would say, if the Wilder who fought Arthur Spilka turns up, I'd be 99% to 100% in favour of Povetkin. But if the Wilder who fought the main Stavern turns up and fights that fight, much more disciplined, much more mobile, I'd say it becomes a 50-50 fight. Because, Deontay Wilder, that was a real performance for him. And if he can raise his game to that sort of level as he moves up in competition, it becomes a real fascinating fight. And, Deontay Wilder may not have a great chin, but his chin isn't as bad as people make out on the forums. He got hurt in fights early on by journeymen, but we've seen him now with guys who can punch a bit. Stavern can punch a bit. Molina can punch a bit. And these guys weren't exactly dropping him, despite all of Wilder's frailties. So, Povetkin's a harder puncher. He's a better fighter. The safe money is with Povetkin, and I would probably pick Povetkin to win. But it's a very, very tough fight if Wilder brings his A game, because he does have things that could cause Povetkin problems. Let me ask you, how likely do you think it is that this fight actually happens?
I don't actually know, because WBC president said he wants it to go ahead, so potential winner could get a unification fight, and the purse bids have gone through, so it's a tough one unless Al Heyman comes up with some sort of magic antidote or something like that. I do see it happening, but when, I don't know. Obviously, we know where in Russia. It'll be in a big stadium, probably be packed out because Povetkin's a big ticket seller there. But unless Al Heyman could do something, we've heard stories and rumours that he's done things before. He's bailed people out, and it's even possible that Wilder could even dump the WBC belt and go after the IBF winner of Charles Martin and Anthony Joshua, or he could fight possibly even Joseph Parker to Cam winner. We don't know that, but I think it will happen unless Al Heyman does something fishy and we don't know about it. So what about you? Do you think the fight will go ahead?
I can't make up my mind. From one perspective, I think the winning purse bid for this was 7 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And, Deontay Wilder as the champion will get the lion's share of that. He'll probably get about 70-75%. So, Wilder's looking at a $5 million payday. That'd be the biggest payday of his life by some margin, I should imagine. But, does he want to go to Russia? Does he want to risk that? Does he want to risk a fight with Povetkin? It's so hard to predict what he will do in that sense. I think a realistic option, a lot of people are saying that the Fury-Vladimir Klitschko fight won't happen and that Vladimir Klitschko will retire. Someone tweeted me recently, said that they'd walked past Vladimir Klitschko in an airport and he looked out of shape. He didn't look his normal self. Maybe he's not been in training. I don't know what's going on there. Tyson Fury's being very cryptic about it. But if that fight were not to happen for whatever reason, I could see Heyman trying to fix up a Fury fight and vacating the WBC belt. But we're getting into the realms of if and buts now, aren't we? It's a hard one to call.
Yeah, definitely hard to see if it goes ahead or doesn't. We just have to. It's just a waiting game. We have to wait and see, I guess.
Absolutely.
You don't mind if we drop down to Cruiserweight?
No, go for it, mate.
Yeah, Marco Huck, Afolabi on the weekend. Hook looked like he was back to his best. Got 11th round retirement stoppage. Afolabi's left eye, I think, almost shut, swollen closed. What do you think? And he said he wants a rematch against Krzysztof Glowacki, WBO champion, who's got a fight against Cunningham next. What do you think of the two fights?
Yeah, so I haven't seen Huck Afolabi yet because I was away at the weekend. But what I will say is I don't rate the form that strongly, actually. Ola Afolabi, he's a very likeable fighter. He's someone I've followed for some time. I think he's really, really good. But I do believe Afolabi was very much coming to the end of his career and got a win that wasn't expected against that Rakhim Chikaev, who basically was a muscle-bound guy who ran out of gas and was able to get stopped, I think Afolabi had lost momentum before that. I'd seen him in some tough fights, some fights he should have won, but stumbled over the finish line. And I just wonder if the Ola Afolabi who stepped into the ring in that fourth fight wasn't the same guy who stepped in the ring the first three fights. And for me, the form matters less. I mean, I hear Afolabi fell right into Huck's game plan, didn't use range, didn't use distance, and fought Marco Huck's fight. I'm not so sure. I'd probably like to see Marco Huck stepping up to heavyweight for me. I think there's more attractive options. The Glowacki fight, obviously, that is an interesting fight. But, don't rule out Steve Cunningham in that Cunningham-Glowacki fight, by the way. It's probably because I haven't seen as much of Glowacki as I should have done. But Steve Cunningham is another one of these properly underrated fighters. And, his success at heavyweight shows that he can be a threat back down at Cruiserweight for my money.
Yeah, I mean, he was only coming in at 205 for heavyweight fights. So,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing is with if Marco Huck steps into the ring with Glowacki again, he's quite one-dimensional in that sort of sense. Even though he's really good at what he does, we say Povetkin is one-dimensional at times, but he's good at what he does. Same with Marco Huck. He's very rugged, tough, got a great chin, regardless of the Glowacki stoppage. He's winning the fight against him. Fight of the year candidate, a brilliant fight. But Glowacki took almost everything he had, apart from the 6th round knockdown. He took everything he had and more, and he came back to knock him out in the 11th. So my concern would be if he steps into the ring with him again. How would he fare? Because the adaptability for Marco Huck, I don't think is there, and I think he might struggle again with Glowacki's punching power and the southpaw stance as well. So what do you think he could beat him if there was a potential rematch on the horizon?
Yeah, I think Huck could beat him potentially. I think Huck was out of sorts in the last fight. I know there was potentially some issues with his trainer. I have concern. For me, Huck's durability, I rate him as a very tough, durable guy. But he did slip a bit in that fight, obviously getting knocked out. But I wonder if Huck's weight is possibly a problem. Unlike Steve Cunningham, I think Marco Huck is someone who does walk around 215. That sort of weight. And I just wonder if he was cutting weight, large amounts of weight for that fight. And as it was getting tough, as it was going later, if that maybe affected him. So I wonder if he would be better off at heavyweight in the long run. But I wouldn't rule him out in that fight. He's too good to rule out. But yeah, you also wouldn't bet against Glowacki at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. Really good fight. And I think another 5-year candidate because both come forward, both big punches, good chins. Glowacki looks like he has a good chin. So yeah, it would be a really good fight. I think I'd really like to see that fight again. That was one of my fights of the year, along with the Nathan Cleverly, Andre Fonfara fight. So yeah, that was superb.
I've just got it here, mate.